There it is. Hey everybody, my name is Emily and I'm here with Jacob, and we are here for another week of Unscripted. And every week we kind of just talk about a question that's in the church and kind of just have some dialogue. So please join us in that conversation. If there's something that we say that you have more questions about or you want us to dive even deeper in, go ahead and drop that in the comments.
Or disagree with us. That's always fun too.
Yes, you can disagree with us at any time as well. So today, the question that I kind of want to start with is, it's a big question, so are you ready?
Yep.
It's, what is the purpose of the church?
That is a big question. Yeah.
And you have to come up with the correct answer.
The correct answer?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, no one's going to disagree with this, I'm sure.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's obviously a number of ways you can go with that conversation. I think the path of least resistance, so to speak, would probably be to look at the Great Commission. Mm-hmm. So at the end of Matthew, Jesus says, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." And so there's, when I read that, I kind of identify two parts. Mm-hmm. There's the go and make disciples. And so I think in more contemporary terms, we would talk about like this tension that exists in churches between like, are we trying to reach more people, or like, are we outreach focused, or are we really heavily focused on discipleship, and like we really want to invest deeply in the people who are already here?
Right.
And both are great. I think both are super important. My bend is to the go piece. Actually, when I was in college, I had the opportunity to talk to a Jewish rabbi, and he was explaining to me that that verse in Hebrew, or in Greek, sorry, if you look at like the literal translation of it, it should be "as you are going." And so he would talk about how he always kind of points people to say like, outreach isn't a program. Like, it's not about the church starting this new exciting thing. It's about every person who identifies themselves as a Christian living their life day to day in their interactions with friends and neighbors and coworkers that points people to Jesus.
Right. So that's a great way of putting it, because I think like the other, like when you think of like churchy words, like the words that are only used pretty much exclusively in the church, like another word for that outreach is evangelism. So,
dun dun dun.
Yeah. So okay, explain that to me a little bit. Why you go dun 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 when I unpack the word evangelism?
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally, but I know that that's like a feeling in church world. Mm-hmm. I think that for most people, when they think of the word evangelism, like it conjures up like images of like certain branches of Christianity or certain branches of religion that like go door to door to like hand out pamphlets or whatever. I think that's what people think of when they think of evangelism, or like leaving tracts at restaurants or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. And that's an example of evangelism. It's not a good one, but I think that that's like what people are afraid of. And so I think it's a situation that we've kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater and just said like, you know what? We don't want to be pushy. We don't want to be invasive. We don't want to be exclusive. So we're just not going to do it.
We're just not going to do it.
And I think that there's some real danger in that. I think that the world needs a church, not just a local church, but like a global church that wants to tell people about Jesus.
Right. That wants to reach people, but not like force it on.
Absolutely.
People. Right.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's interested in anything that's being forced on them. Like I don't like to be forced to do anything. I mean, if someone would have forced faith on me, I don't know that I would be where I am.
Right. It's because somebody invited you into that then you were able to have that relationship with yourself. And
I think invite is a good word. I mean, that's a word that I think we kind of default to at Woods Chapel a lot more, of being invitational or talking about what's our culture around inviting or encouraging people to invite. That's why, you know, it's so important to like hit the share button on Facebook or with a video like this or with the service on Sunday. That's why we're always encouraging people to share, because that's a super easy, kind of low, intrusive way of putting something out there in the path that someone that you know that might see it, that's not really kind of bold and in your face.
Right. So how would, because I think you kind of paint a good picture for us that you say that like outreach isn't necessarily just like all of these like big attraction events to get people's attention, but it's also not like forcing it down people's throats. So where would you say kind of is that, and I mean, this is obviously based on like a personal opinion, but like where would you say is kind of that sweet spot of how do you reach people and you tell them like how urgent it is and how much passion and purpose you have about your own relationship without it becoming that pushiness?
Sure. So I had the youth pastor that I had growing up would always say, ministry happens through relationships and relationships happen through time. And my kind of encouragement to people is always like, if you don't know somebody, that's not the person you should be telling about Jesus. That while I think it's important that everyone hears about the gospel, I think that it's needs to be done in a way that can be palpable to that person. And 99 times out of 100, that's going to be through somebody that they know, through somebody who has established a rapport, through someone who has proven to them repeatedly, like, I care about you. And I'm sharing this with you because I care about you. I'm sharing this with you because I think that this has something to offer you. Not because I think you're going to hell and need to change.
Right. And that's a very distinct difference in messages that has so much weight and power in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think that's, again, that goes back to those images of people in suits going door to door of like, do you know where you're going to go if you die? Kind of thing. And I think that's, again, that's the evangelism that people are afraid of. And not just Christians are afraid of. I think that's the evangelism that like non-Christians are afraid of. They're like, I want nothing to do with that.
Right.
But I think even non-Christians would say, I'm very interested in a creator, in a God who is for me.
Right. And yeah, being able to build those relationships and have those conversations is really what opens that door to that conversation, not just knocking on doors and demanding to have the conversation. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Again, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this. And if you have some great examples of how you've done outreach to friends and family and that kind of stuff, go ahead and drop that in the comments. But until next time, we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.